Hey guys, welcome back to Faith Family Cars, and the day has finally come that we are going to start on the orange Pinto. So you've been hearing us talk about it, and we really were wanting to try to get it ready for the cruise in, the Faith Family Cars cruise in. Didn't happen, but you've been hearing us talking about it, and if you watch our podcast on YouTube, you recently saw us do a little video about it on our Shop Talk episode. So we're finally at that day where we're going to start on the rear end, and it is hot. It is so hot. You can probably tell my shirt is wet just from coming out here and doing a little prep work to get started for this video. And it is really hot. It is so muggy that it's miserable. But you're probably going to hear some background noise from the road, from the fans, because it's Friday afternoon and there's usually a little more traffic on the road on Friday afternoon. So you're probably going to get a little background noise, but we have got to leave the door open and we have got to have the fans running, because there is no way you're going to work out here in this hot box without it. So we're getting on the Pinto. As you can see, right back here is the rear end housing, and I've been doing a little bit of cleaning up on that, a little bit of prep work on that to get it ready, because in our last video that we did when we were working on the bullnose, I believe it was in that video, Caleb was painting that rear end and cleaning it up, but it's been sitting since then, so I'm knocking the dust off of it and getting it ready for the third member to go in. But I wanted to do a little background about this car. Now, we've told on one of our recent videos, you know, that this was my middle son's car, and Dad just can't let him go, so Dad hung on to it when he was ready to get rid of it, and I'm making the needed repairs to it. So it seems like I inherit cars that way. You know, they need repairs, and my kids decide they're going to sell them, and Dad ends up buying them. Yeah. Don't know why that is, but yeah, I got a bad problem with that. All right, guys, so here is our quick performance 8-inch third member, and they dialed this thing in for us. It's got a 3.00 gear ratio, 28 spline axles, because I wanted to reuse the axles that came with the housing. So this is a nodular rear end, and they've dialed it all in. You see the paint marks on it. Sweet. These guys at Quick Performance got this out quick. I thought I was going to be working on this thing, you know, months ago, and I'm just now getting to it, but they got this thing out and to me in less than a week, so I was really excited about that. And there we go. I think we're cleaned up good, and this axle is ready to install. We already knocked out the other one, so we're going to hop underneath the car and get ready to start pulling this rear end out. Okay, so I went ahead and pulled the wheel off of this driver's side, and I was curious about the brakes, and this has got brand new brakes on it. So I'm not sure if my son put these on there or not, but when the axle seals started leaking on this rear end that's in here, I believe it was the passenger side, and he thought it was a wheel cylinder, you know, and just not experienced, you know, and the gear oil was really, I guess, thin and black, but anyway, he thought it was a wheel cylinder. So he put on new brakes on this. So I would love to be able to use this setup on the 8-inch rear end for now. we go. There it is. Okay. And it will not. It will not. So now we got some work ahead of us. All right, guys, so I moved over to the other side and I've gotten it pulled apart. Now, I have not had this apart before. And I now realize what was going on. I mean, this thing is in bad shape. Let's get in here and look at it. I've already pulled the axle out because the axle was basically just laying in there. But yeah, there you are. There is your bearing. Oh, you just seen the BB fall out. That's the inner part of your bearing, I believe. Not sure. And here is the outer part of it. This dude just is demolished. And so what the shop was saying is that they were going to have to get another rear end because the housing right here was wallered out. So it wasn't going to seal again. And I would say it's because if you look at the end of the axle here, this thing was banging around. Where'd I put it? This thing was definitely banging around in there. So that's what was wrong with it. That is the retainer that has tore all the pieces right there. Wow. I'm not sure what part of the bearing. There you go. Yeah, definitely wasn't going to be putting another bearing and axle back in that. Or bearing and seal back in that. That would not have worked very well. So, now time to get under the car to get this rear end out of here. Alright, I just finished breaking the bolts loose on the U-bolts. We got the brake line loose on the other side. It was a pain in the butt, didn't record none of that. These U-bolts came loose real easy. So, rear end is now ready to take out. Yes, sirree. All right, let's get the other side pulled up, then we should be able to slide it out. I'm going to probably try to slide it out that direction. she's on the ground. Oh, get her drug out. Little bitty guy. What we're putting in is a whole lot bigger. But it's gonna work. Just gotta do some measuring now for a spring purchase. Make sure that they're gonna be in the right spots. I think we're gonna have to do a little bit of engineering on those to make them work. Okay, so we're underneath the car, as you guys can see, and I have been test fitting this housing because this 8-inch housing is actually 1 inch more narrow than the factory housing was, and the spring perches are located about a 1/4 inch out, and so that sets the pinhole for the leaf spring off a 1/4 inch also. So it's somewhere between a 1/4 and a 1/2 inch on both sides. So what I've done is I have centered this, and I'm going to get you guys in here, kind of show you all what we've got and what we've got to do to make this work, or what we're going to do to make it work. So let's pull you guys in. Please don't mind the grass mowing going on. That is my buddy Caleb cutting the yard for me because it has been raining here every single day, and we finally got a dry day, so he's getting the grass cut. All right, light this up so y'all can see. So what we got here is, you see our spring perch there on the bottom of the housing. Below that, you have a 2-inch block, and then of course our leaf spring. Yes, you had to know I was going to lower this car. That's what I do. Everything gets lowered around here. So yes, we are lowering the rear of this car 2 inches. We're lowering the front of the car 2 inches also. We're gonna have to see how it looks. I may have to go with a different block in the rear, but this is what we're starting with. I had these 2-inch blocks already, so we're gonna start with these. But as you can see how the spring perch, but you can actually see the pin in there. But you can see how the spring perch is kind of in on that block. Out here, you can see where it actually overhangs. Right there, just a little. Don't worry about that, because the bottom bracket is wider than the springs, like quite a bit wider than the springs, and the U-bolts on the other one, on the other rear end, were over away from the perch a little bit. So I think we're going to be fine. I kind of eyeballed it, put it up there and eyeballed it, and I think that our U-bolts are going to be just fine. Now I am going to have to get extended U-bolts, but the U-bolts that were on the other rear end won't fit this one anyway, because this is a larger diameter housing. So that's what we're dealing with. So up here, we will clear. You can see our bump stop on the bottom of the drive shaft tube. We will clear it by a couple inches. So the 8-inch third member curves down right here. So we're going to clear it fine. And above the differential, you can't really tell it, but above the differential, we have got a good 4 to 5 inches above it. So we're in good shape there. So it looks like we're going to clear everywhere. Your bump stops out here. We've got about 2.5 to 3 inches of clearance there. And we can put some different bump stops in if we needed to. So I think we're going to be in good shape lowering this. So what gave me this idea is I was on a Pinto forum, and there was a guy talking about using a Maverick rear end, and he slotted his hose, which is what we're going to do to this, and he put 2-inch blocks in and lowered the rear of the car. And I was like, nice, that's what we're doing. That's how we're going to get the rear down, because we've got a set of 2-inch blocks. So we're going to see how this goes. Right now I'm going to take this housing out, and we're going to slot those hoses so that they will fit on these pins, and then we're going to slide it back in here and see how it looks. Okay, so there is one done. As you can see, we just basically slotted it over, and that should work. If it don't, we'll do some adjustment to it. All right, guys, fall has arrived, and what do you need for those cool mornings? Faith Family Cars logo hoodie. Guys, we have got plenty of these in stock. Go to our website, faithfamilycars.com, and check these out. They got the logo on the back. They got the piston logo on the front with Romans 1:16, for I am not ashamed of the gospel. Guys, these are thick. They are warm. I just wore mine on Saturday morning of the Hoodbilly Cruise because it was cool that morning. Kept me nice and warm, and it'll do the same for you all winter long if you want to wear it all winter as a work hoodie. That's great too. They're durable. They're thick. You're going to love them. Go over to faithfamilycars.com and check them out. And we've got all of our t-shirts, guys. So we've got our logo t-shirt, same as what you've got on the hoodie, piston logo on the front. We've got our most popular t-shirt, Real Men Love Jesus, and it's got on the front of it our logo. We also have a limited run of My Story His Glory logo t-shirts. Got the logo on the back, and then on the front it has the chair with John 3:30. He must increase, so I must decrease. Guys, that's our theme verse for the My Story His Glory podcast. Go check that out if you have it. But guys, go on over to faithfamilycars.com, grab you some shirts, grab you a hoodie, grab you some stickers, grab you some hats. We've got gray, we've got black, we got flat bill, we got curve bill, whatever you prefer. It's there, guys. So go check out faithfamilycars.com, support our ministry, and buy you some merch. We love you. We appreciate you. All right, guys, let's get back after it. Literally 2 months later, we're getting back after it. Yeah, crazy, right? It's been 2 months since we last worked on this. So if you're watching this video, you're basically right in the middle of it, and you're seeing a 2-month difference in the recording time. So the last place that we stopped at, I was fitting the rear end. You know, I was doing some test fitting and making sure that it was going to fit right. And because we are using a Maverick rear end on this Pinto, which is a little more narrow. And so that's where we left off at. And it has been since the end of July, and we are now at September 21st. And that said, we are 5 days away from Holly Ford Fest, and I've got to get this Pinto done. So we got a lot of work to do still, but I have got the rear end in the car. All right, so today's not actually the first day that I'm back on it. I did work on it a couple of nights ago without recording because I really just needed to make some progress on it and get moving on it because it had been so long since I'd done anything to it. Had to get my thoughts back into it, get my head wrapped around what I was doing again. Because you know, when you leave a project and you're going back to it later, sometimes you got to regroup, right? So that's where I was at. So I just didn't want to record. I just want to get back at it. So we're going to update that in a minute. But this whole process of getting this rear end in this car and some of the other things that we're getting ready to do to it has really taken a lot of patience because I haven't been able to get a lot of time in the garage. We got so much stuff going on. We're in the middle of the busiest part of car show season, and we're trying to hit up all these shows and do all these podcasts, and it's just been hard to find time to get in the garage. So I have finally made time, but we're a week away from Ford Fest. And I'm not a very patient person, so I get a little frustrated sometimes when the time that I think I've carved out gets taken by other things. But life happens, things happen, and we have to do other things. So, you know, it got me thinking about how a lot of times when we pray a prayer, we want to see instant results, right? Like for me, whenever I've got this idea in my head of something I want to do or something I want to do to one of the cars, man, I want to do it now. I want to get it knocked out. I want to see the final result. I want it now. And, you know, God don't work that way. We're on his time. So a lot of times we pray these prayers and we're like, God, I need you to answer. I need you to answer. I need you to answer. Instead of putting faith and trust in him and leaving it with him. And the word says, wait on the Lord, be strong and take heart, and wait on the Lord. That is Psalms 27:14. So we are to wait on the Lord. Let's trust in him. Let's put our trust in him. This has been a hard thing for me to do, to just sit back, pray a prayer, sit back, and wait for the Lord to answer it. And it's very difficult. But if we wait upon the Lord, guess what? All things work out for his glory, right? So let's just think about that when we're working on our old hot rods too. Sometimes things don't work out the way we want them to. And if we're just patient and we take our time and we will wait for things to work themselves out, they will work themselves out. And sometimes don't hurt to say a little prayer over what you got going on. Trust me, I've been there, done that, and God took care of it. All right, so let's give a little update on what we've got going on right now, okay? So like I said, I did get the rear end in the car. Yes, those bolts are really long. And that is because we were originally going to put spacers in here to lower this car 2 inches. We were putting 2-inch blocks in. I was unable to do that. So we're going back with the stock ride height on the rear. So these bolts is what I bought to fit this 8-inch housing, because the original bolts are much more narrow in diameter of this U-shape. They will not fit the diameter of the 8-inch. So I'm going to cut these off, of course, up here somewhere, and they'll work just fine. You know, we'll get them cut off, not flush, but, you know, down in here somewhere, and they'll be fine. Nothing wrong with that. So the rear end is in, as you can see, got the differential in, and that drive shaft is just sitting there because I was checking the length of the drive shaft to make sure that we were not too long, and we are in really good shape. Everything looks great. It turned out really nice. The brake lines are all ran. Got to hook them up still, but they're all ran. And so today, what we're getting into is we really need to make some progress today, some big progress. So we got to get the axles in, we got to get the brakes on. That's what we got to do today. And that way we can hopefully get ready to bleed these brakes. So we're going to hop into it and we're going to get some stuff knocked out. Here we go. All right, so we got both axles in on both sides. So now I'm going to put the wheel cylinders in. That is our next step. We got to do that before we start getting the brakes put on. So we get the wheel cylinders in, get the brake lines connected. But I don't know if we'll get that far tonight, because it's Sunday afternoon, and I typically don't get out here and work on these cars on Sunday afternoon, but because we're in a time crunch, that's what we're doing. And yeah, so we got family dinner tonight, and I just had a few hours in between church and family dinner to get these axles in and start on the brakes. I ended up having to look at another issue too, so this is probably as far as we are going to get tonight. I'm going to pick back up on it tomorrow night. That is where we're going to end tonight. We'll pick back up tomorrow night. We'll get the brake lines hooked up, and hopefully we'll get all the brakes on both sides and be ready to bleed them. That's what I would love to be able to do. Be ready to bleed them, be ready to throw some wheels on this thing. So we'll see how it goes. We're going to put in some hours tomorrow night. We'll see how it goes. Okay, so we are finally back out here on the Pinto. It's a week after Ford Fest. So we quit working on the car because we knew we weren't going to be able to get it ready for Ford Fest because we were missing brake parts. So I finally have been able to track down the parts we needed. The main one that I could not find anywhere is this guy right here. So this is the link bar. Honestly, I'm not even sure it's a parking brake link that goes right around the wheel cylinder between both shoes, right? So I was missing these and could not locate them anywhere. And my lead that I thought I had with our buddy Justin, who deals in Maverick parts, he didn't have any. So I ended up ordering this one right here from E-Classic Parts. Never heard of them before, but I found them online. They had them, and they got here in 3 days. So I was pretty happy about that. I was actually really hoping they'd be here today because this is the day that I need to finish this. So we were able to get that. I was also missing these little guys right here, which go in the ends of the wheel cylinder. So located those. Actually, I couldn't find these anywhere under the name Maverick. I just finally looked up the part name and we found some that would work, and they're actually identical to what was in it because I did have 2 of them. So I had one side, but I didn't have the other side. So that was the 2 main parts that we were missing. So I went ahead and got a new hardware kit, and we got new shoes and everything going on. So now we're going to put these brakes back together, and hopefully they won't cause us no trouble, because who likes drum brakes, right? Drum brakes suck. But I don't think they will. I think we'll be able to throw them back together pretty quick. Now, the other thing that we're working on too is the wheels. So I've got the wheels mounted and tires mounted on the wheels off of the other wheels that ain't going to work. We are going to do a full 5-lug swap on the front. So this thing's going to be 5-lug all the way around. And we've got some really period correct wheels that I've already got a couple of them done. And we'll show you guys once we get the brakes done, because that's what we're going to work on after that. So let's dive into it. Let's get some brakes knocked out. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, it is time to peel back this tape and see what our end result looks like. Okay, so what we've got here is the rear shocks. We're going to get ready to put those on before we move to the front. Got the last wheel done. And we have KYB XLG shocks for the rear. If y'all remember in a previous video, we put the KYB adjustable shocks on the Cobra, and I really like how they ride. I like how it turned out, so that's what I decided to go with on the rear of this Pinto. Typically this is not what I would do. I would sandblast this, I would paint this, but being we're in a time crunch, and being I know that we've got some future plans for this car that will likely mean me taking these out again, I'll wait till a later date. Okay. Those bushings are a little small. All right, so there's one. Alright guys, so I got the shocks done, got the car on the ground, and at least we can check out the rear wheels. And I think they sit just about where I want them. I don't know that I want to lower this any. If I do, I wouldn't want to lower it more than 1 inch. So I think I'm going to leave it alone and see what happens when we drop the front end. But man, I think that those wheels, they look so good on there. Turned out just right. The tire fitment, the tire size looks just right. So we're gonna get the front done now. So we're doing the 5 lug swap, and we got some coilovers for the front. So we're gonna get those coilovers put together. But first we're gonna raise the car up, get the wheel off, see what we're working with. First we gotta get these goofy little spinner caps off. Here's our little tool, and it's about worn out. But it won't ever have to be used again, because these wheels are going in the trash. Don't want no part of these. Can't believe my son left them on here, to be honest, but. All right, looks like a 21. Let's get the impact and knock this off. Alright guys, it's getting really late and I have been working on these coilovers for quite a while, so I haven't showed much footage of them because they've been a little bit of a bear to get in by myself. I really needed another person to help pry down on this lower control arm in order to get the new spring in and get the old spring out. Really, that was the hardest part. But I want to show you something on these Pintos and Mustang 2 suspensions that is something really good for everybody to know if you're messing with one of these. This pocket right here is where the old spring rests. It would rest right around here, okay? It would seat right there. This pocket is where the shock would come through originally. So where the issue lies is when you're trying to put this spring in, if you don't put it in just right, then you have issues with your adjuster nut and your retaining nut wanting to get caught down in there and get stuck. So you really got to pay attention how you do it. When I did the other side, I fought that and fought it and fought it and finally figured out the right way to do it. Now, a lot of you guys who have done this, and maybe nobody's done this who's watching this, but if you have done this, you may have figured that out right away. It took me a minute. So this side right here went a lot quicker because I knew that that was going to fight me, and I had figured out a better way to do it. So I'm not going to record no more of the coilover install. Basically right now I've got to put everything, I got the coilover in, so I got to put everything back together with my new 5-lug hub, and I'll show y'all what it looks like when we're done, because I think the stance is going to look pretty good. So let me get it finished up. Okay, so I was up really late last night working on adjusting the coilovers on this car before the Hoodbilly Cruise. And yes, my voice sounds weird. I'm wearing glasses. I'm battling allergies. But these coilovers really, in my opinion, are not made for stock lower control arms. They are made for a tubular control arm, even though it says that they are supposedly made for stock lower control arms. They don't fit very well. I battled the adjustment process with these for hours, which it shouldn't have been that way. So I finally got my ride height the way I want it. They're going to do for now. They will not stay on this car. I'm not a big fan of these coilovers. We will definitely do something different in the future with this. But the car is riding good. It's driving good. This is the first drive this car has done in a year that was more than up and down our street. So I got insurance on it, and I just took it for about a 15-mile drive, and it is doing great. It's running great, rides great, have no complaints. So we will be headed to the Hoodbilly Cruise in the Pinto. Super excited about it. But before we do that, we got to get back to the house and get this thing cleaned up and ready to look good for its appearance at the Hoodbilly Cruise.
All right, guys, we are headed to the Hoodbilly Cruise. We've got the cars ready to go, about ready to leave the Airbnb and head to Mark Frisbee's house to get this thing started. It's gonna be a great day. We're gonna meet up with a lot of friends that we haven't met yet in person, which is gonna be cool, and then catch up with some old friends too. So guys, we're about ready to hop into it and get this thing rolling. We'll see you soon. All right, guys, we are heading out on the Hoodbilly Cruise. We got a lot of cars here. I think they said there was 26. That's pretty good. So this is going to be a really good time. Nice bullnose right there, lifted. And there's a lot of different stuff. A lot of Chevys. I think there's only 3 Fords here, so we're kind of the minority. It's going to be a good time, and we're headed out on the first leg. All right, guys, we made it to the Hoodbilly Cruise, and we made it back. Thank the Lord for that. But honestly, I didn't think we'd have any trouble. I mean, we did, but nothing that kept us from making it there and back. So Zach and Angel took the F100. It did great, like always. Me and Tanya took the Pinto, and it actually rides really good. It drove good. We just had some issues, and we'll get into that here in a minute. But I want to thank Mark and Rusty for inviting us to the Hoodbilly Cruise. What a great event. Those guys knocked it out of the park. And, you know, I want to say thank you to Mark and Jamie and Mark's wife, Beth, Built Shoulda Bought Garage, and the hospitality that we were shown and everyone was shown at their house for the cookout. And then Rusty and his wife, Tanya, Gateway Auto Indy. Those guys just did a phenomenal job with this event, and gave me some ideas for maybe our event. You know, you see different things at different events and you learn to make yours better, and I appreciate them having us out. We had a great time. We got to meet some new people and got to hang out with some people that we already knew that we just haven't got to spend a lot of time with, and that was awesome. And the food was great. And then after the cookout, we finished the night off at a cruise in at a local drive-in diner. And a whole group of us went there. It was a great time. Some really cool cars there. My personal favorite, I know this is crazy, but it was a Corvair van. I think they're called a Greenbrier. But man, this thing was so slick. It was lowered, had some nice chrome wheels on it. All the chrome trim was on it. It's like a goldish tan color, and just a beautiful, beautiful rig. And whoever we did the restore on that did a phenomenal job. So there was also a 47 Woody there that I really liked too. But so many cool cars there. It was a really good time, and we made it back. But like I said, we did have an issue. We spent the whole day battling brake issues with the Pinto. We had a minor hard start issue that occurred all day long. I don't know what that's all about. Again, this car hadn't been on the road for a year, so I mean, it may just, the carburetor might just need to be cleaned good, you know, I don't know. But when the car would warm up, it would want to start hard, which also led me to think maybe it's having a fuel pump issue too. So I don't know. But the brake issue was the biggest deal. Saturday morning when we took off to head to Mark's house to start the cruise, I noticed the brake pedal didn't feel right. It was fine all day Friday, but Saturday it did not feel right. So we checked the fluid at a gas station and it was almost empty. So I filled it up full of fluid and I'm like, we got a leak somewhere, we're going to have to find it. We made our way to Mark's, looked for the leak. I didn't see nothing anywhere. I couldn't see anything dripping. And of course, my first thought was, well, we replaced the rear end in this, and I did have to fix a brake line and replace a fitting. And you know, maybe it's one of those. So, and then of course, all the brake lines were reconnected. So maybe one of those lines is leaking, but nothing. So we drove it, topped off of fluid. We drove it. It was better, but it wasn't great. We drove it to Nashville, Indiana, the halfway point, and we had no brake pedal at all by the time we got there. So I said, Zach, we're going to have to bleed these brakes, see if we can at least get some kind of pedal. So we bled them. Pedal was great. It was awesome. By the end of the night at the cruise in we went to, we were back to no brake pedal. So we drove all the way home that way. And the fluid was full though. I mean, it had maybe moved a quarter inch, but we drove all the way home. And of course, you know, I could stop it. I can gear down. I got an emergency brake, but the brake pedal, if you pushed it all the way to the floor, it would engage the brakes. So we made it home fine. But while we were in Nashville bleeding the brakes, when we got done bleeding them, our buddy Matt, Second Gen Matt on Instagram, he said, did you check inside the car on the firewall where the master cylinder mounts? And I'm like, no, I didn't think about that. And so when we had left there and we made it back to Mark's, I did pull the carpet down and I felt the firewall, and sure enough, we had brake fluid on the firewall. So we know we got a master cylinder leak. This car has manual brakes. And so at this point, I got to make a decision. Do I want to go with manual brakes again and just leave it all manual, or do I want to go with power brakes? So someone else took a real interest in this car while we were on the cruise, and that person may end up driving this car. And if that's the case, I may want to put manual or power brakes back on it. Personally, I'm good with manual brakes, but this person would probably prefer power brakes. So got to make that decision. Got to decide what I'm going to do with the carburetor, because I really think that it needs an EFI system. I think that would be good for the person who may be driving this. They would love that, to be able to just hit the key and fire it up and go. And there's a lot of stuff that as we drove it, we saw that we want to fix on the car and change on the car. This car's not perfect by no means. I mean, it's got a lot of little issues, and I think we can take care of that. But the car did ride really well. It rode about like the Mustang does. And it was a really good cruiser. I mean, the gears work great in this thing. Transmission is great. The rear end worked great. And that quick performance, rear differential, 3-to-1 gear ratio was great. That was, I'm glad I chose that gear ratio. Ran out great. I mean, I was able to run 75 mile an hour on the interstate with no issues. The RPMs were low. I don't know exactly what they were, as we don't have a tach, but they were low. If I had to guess, they were probably below 2,500. But this is a 4-speed car. So I'm really happy about that. The car did great on gas mileage. I don't know exactly what that was either, as I didn't keep up with it, but it did really good. So super happy with the car. We just got some issues to fix. So we're going to tackle the master cylinder in an upcoming video, I'm sure, and you'll see a lot more of this car in upcoming videos. So I hope you like the little Pinto. A lot of people at the event sure did. It got a lot of attention, believe it or not. I was pretty happy about that, honestly. But you don't see Pintos anymore, and you know, I think people just thought it was kind of cool there's a Pinto out there. But my son, when he had it, he would tell us that he'd get so annoyed because every time he'd stop at a gas station just to fill up with gas, people were coming to him and telling stories about their grandma or their grandpa or their mom and dad who had one, and he got tired of that. And I could see that because seriously, he was right. Every single gas station stop, we stopped at rest areas. We were in traffic on the interstate, people rolling down our windows to holler and say, hey, what year is that? Hey, my dad had one of those. Hey, my grandma had one of those. And it was really cool, but I could see where that might get just a little bit annoying after a while. So yeah, but this car did great. Like I said, besides the brake issue, we'll get that taken care of. And the F100 did great. The Hoodbilly Cruise was great, and definitely can't wait for that next year. So guys, that's going to wrap up this video. Hopefully maybe you learned a little something. I don't know. I mean, it's a Pinto. Not very many people have Pintos, but these kind of swaps are pretty easy. Maybe you learned that. Maybe you learned it's not hard to do some research and find a part that will fit without a lot of modification. Yeah, of course you're gonna have to do a little fab. You're gonna have to do a little rearranging of things, you know, but most of the time you can find something that'll fit these old cars. That's something a little more modern. Well, in this case, it wasn't more modern. It's just out of a different car, but you know what I'm saying. So don't hesitate to do a swap like this. They're not bad at all. If I'd had all the parts, this would have been done real quick, and the time on top of that. But we got it done. We got it to our second go, the Hoodbilly Cruise, and we had a great time. So guys, we appreciate y'all. We love you. Thank you for watching this video. Go like it and subscribe. Hit that button, subscribe to our channel for us, guys. And we will see you next time.